Hey everyone and welcome. My name is Blue and today we're talking about the Midseason Invitational for Paladins, where the Paladins Console League teams will face off against the Paladins Minor League teams to see which two of those teams will then enter into the championship bracket with the PPL teams from the Paladins Premier League, if you don't know what that is. And we've got some exciting matchups. I've actually had the bracket for a while now. I was just waiting for Skillshot to release it publicly. I didn't want to be the one who broke it. So, that's just the way that this is going to go down. It's console versus PC in an FPS. It's unprecedented. And there's been so much buildup around this, a lot of hype as well as a lot of controversy as well. So let's dive right into it. Our first matchup is Elevate versus Sour Team. Elevate being your Xbox North American champions versus the number 2 team in the European PML. So let's get right into it. Now for Elevate, they will be bringing in Trensiq, Shoo, Exodia, Emitpain, Wxnderful, and Yiuii. So Yiuii will be stepping in as the sub/coach, and this is a good pickup for them. It worked out in the past as well. Ludex was Elevate's coach/sub during HRX most recently, and he was this season for them as well. But due to some unforeseen circumstances, he won't be able to travel. So they will be utilizing Yiuii. And for those of you who don't know, Yiuii was the sub for Vexed last season. Got a lot of games in. Ended up winning sub of the year, 6th man of the year for the PCL. Went on to coach Vexed to the grand finals at the most recent HRX event, where they ended up losing to Elevate. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds here. Then we have Wxnderful. Wxnderful's been doing an amazing job this season. He's playing a lot more Frontlines, just like in the past. I mean, look at the facts here. Valencia, Wxnderful, he won that event playing Frontlines, and he got MVP. Again, Wxnderful wins HRX back in January of 2018 playing Frontlines. He gets MVP. Now, he did win one more LAN event. He didn't get MVP at it, and that was Summer Finals or Summer LAN in 2018. But he was playing DPS, and then most recently at HRX, he was playing DPS. They had Hilltime and Trensiq on the tank. So I think him playing Frontlines is going to be a lot better. And then you have Emitpain, the best overall console player currently in the world. Overall, he's just amazing. He can play Frontlines like he did in the 2018 PCL. He can play damage like he has been this season. He leads the league in KDA. The guy just doesn't die, basically. And then we have Exodia. Also, he used to go by the name Atomic Boom. This guy's been lighting it up on the scoreboard as well. So looking forward to seeing what he can do on the DPS side. Then we have Shoo. Of course, Shoo, the veteran of this team, has been around just as long as Wxnderful and has been putting up monstrous numbers on the support role every single time he steps into the game. So be awesome to see him playing as well. And then we have Trensiq, who, Trensiq is the perfect example. Hasn't been playing the game since the very beginning, but he came in, made those rookie mistakes, was coached up, was developed over time, and now he's arguably a top 3 frontline in all of console Paladins. So the big question is, who is playing on mouse and keyboard and who is playing on controller? My best guess is that Shoo, Exodia, and Wxnderful will be playing on keyboard. There's rumors that Wxnderful will be on a PC team in 2020, so he could, use this to his advantage to try and get that preparation, play against some PC teams right now. And then you have Exodia. When I first built my current PC, the current PC that I use now, when I built that about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, Exodia was playing PC Paladins with me on the side of his console endeavors at that time. So I know he has that experience. I'm not sure how much he has been playing on PC since that time, but I know he's been there before. He's familiar with mouse and keyboard. And then we have Shoo. Shoo constantly has been practicing on mouse and keyboard. He's been grinding ranked with players like Legacy and Skeppii and Pain from Pittsburgh Knights. So, he has played on mouse and keyboard for a while. He also plays a lot of CSGO. So, even before Paladins came around, he's been gaming on PC. Now, season recap. They did get first place in the Xbox North American region, although two big things to point out. They only played 27 games. They pretty much 3-0'd everybody. And if they would have continued that trend, you would have played 36 games, I think it is. Or 36? Yeah, 36 games. But they only played 27, which means 9 games went unplayed if they were 3-0 at the very least. And that was because retaliation 2 times forfeited against them for some, some tech problems sometimes, roster problems, whatever it may be. And eStorm Gaming also forfeited 1 week against them as well. So they missed out on 3 weeks of play overall. But, arguably still the best console team all around. And we talked about retaliation, eStorm forfeiting against them. They were in the weakest division. Cats on Mars was pretty much their only competition, and they still were able to very easily take them down 3-0 each time they faced off against them as well. So let's talk about their keys to victory. 1, Trensiq needs to perform at the same level he has been all season, and probably even more versus PC tanks. He's not going against, the tanks like Taco Bell Waifu from Cats on Mars, who is a great tank player. But times 5 is going to be the skill level of these tanks from Sour Team, and we'll get into them in a little bit. Shoo needs to show his leadership skills since he is the more veteran M&K player. He's been on mouse and keyboard for a while, like I just stated. He's going to have to show his veteranship. He's only playing the support role, but he is one of those supports that kind of really engages in those 1v1s. Someone dives the back line, he won't call for help as soon as possible. Sometimes he tries to take on those fights, so he's going to have to win those fights or call for help a little earlier than what he's used to, and he's going to have to kind of guide this team through this set. And then next, Wxnderful needs to play Frontlines as much as possible. We talked about it. He played damage. He's a great DPS player. Problem is that he hasn't had as much team success playing DPS. He's 1 for 3 at LAN with him playing DPS, and he's 2 for 2 at LAN playing Frontline. So I think it's a lot safer to say he needs to play Frontlines. He's been playing extravagant this season as well on those. Emitpain needs to play Drogos and win his 1v1s versus Perdo. We know Pain is a dominant hit scan player. He can play all of those champions. He can pretty much play all of the champions in the game. Maybe give or take, 1, maybe 3 champions. Who knows? He's been practicing Drogos a lot as well. And he's going to be going against these PC teams. And a lot of times when I watch these PC teams play, I see Drogos Drogos having super amounts of success. And it's mainly due to the other team, not drafting a Leon as much as they should. They do draft Leon on PC. Sometimes they draft Vivian. They've been doing it more so late as of lately to shred tanks. So they don't really draft Vivian usually. They don't draft Victor as usual as well. So those are some dominant hit scans that can take care of that Drogos. Instead, they have these Cassies, they have these Eevees, and those are great champions, and they excel on PC with mouse and keyboard. Problem is that it's very difficult for them. The average, or even the middle tier PML version of those champions. We're not talking like the best. We're not talking like FRZ God or Rock Monkey or Random Noob. We're talking about like the middle tier of this scene that we are currently breaking down, which is the PML. Cassie, Eevee, those are difficult champs to try and contain a Drogos. So if he's able to play Drogos at a successful level, I think they'll find some success on their side from Elevate. Also, he's going to have to win these 1v1s with Perdo. It's going to happen. They are going to clash. These are 2 titans clashing amongst each other. We have the best overall player on console versus one of the greatest DPS players in all of PC Paladins throughout the course of history. Just because he's not in the PPL, and I we'll talk about that in a little bit, but he's going to have to win those 1v1s, even if he doesn't win all of them. If he wins the key ones in key situations, I think that'll work out for Elevate's side. Exodia needs to pop off to relieve some pressure off of Emitpain as well. The reason why is because Emitpain carries most of the weight, not only for this team, but for the damage side. Exodia, he's not as experienced as Emitpain when it comes to big stages like this. Emitpain, he's been to the finals a bunch of times. Exodia's been to 1 finals. That was in Summerland when he played for Elevate, but he was playing Frontline at the time. Totally different role. He was he went to LAN with Onslaught for the PS4 NA side of things at Spring Masters last year. Didn't do so hot. They came in 4th place. So he's really got to step up. And he's going to have to pop off on these damages that he's going to be playing. And Yiuii just needs to come prepared. The reason why is because he needs to do as much homework as he can. He's not going against other console teams. So he's going to have a drafting game plan versus the toughest opponents he's ever faced, let alone the rest of these players on the team. So let's talk about Sour Team now. Sour Team will be bringing the roster of Zarini, Joppy, I think it's Joppy or Joppy, iJoppy, Perdo, Ninu, Sheepa, and right now they don't have a sub or coach listed. So basically, they came in 2nd place in the EU PML, and in my opinion, I think they're a better team than Sour, than Penta. I think Sour Team is a better team than Penta. I just think that they had a rough patch, and it really kept them from taking 1st place. I think they had a few key games that didn't go their way, whether that was against Penta directly or maybe it was against All Business. But personally, I think Sour Team is better than Penta. So I think that this is going to be a really tough matchup for Elevate. And Sheepa and Perdo, they've both been in the PPL before. They know what to do. They know how to do this. This isn't even the biggest stage they've been on. I mean, they've been on bigger stages. And then you have Ninu, Joppy, and Zarini. They've been playing great this season as well. I really like Zarini's tank style. He really asserts his dominance on that objective, kind of shuts it down and says, no one's getting in here. And you can do that when you have Joppy standing behind you, as well as Ninu and Sheepa and Perdo running around doing his thing as well. Their keys to victory, it's very simple. 3 things. They need to farm Exodia. If they're able to farm him, that puts even more of that pressure we talked about onto Emitpain for the damage side on that team. I mean, it's already going to be a lot of pressure on Emitpain, and if Exodia is just dying off of cooldown, it's going to be a big problem for Emitpain. Instead of trying to win those 1v1s with Perdo, he's going to have to force 1v1s with other players as well. Another thing is shut down Emitpain. If you can't farm Exodia, if he's playing a little safe and he's not in your reach to take care of, then shut down the carry of the damage duo. Shut him down. And last but not least, disrupt Shoo and put him in uncomfortable situations. Like I said, Shoo is one of those support players where it's always frag first mentality, like Stormavatar. Players like JeffTheRaccoon, they kind of, they sit back and they do their job as a support on the healing side. When things get a little, and when they feel the pressure coming onto them, they kind of, call for their team, they back up, things like that. With Shoo, Stormavatar, these types of players, they don't do that at first. They do if they know that they might lose this or they could be caught out of position even further. But instead, what Shoo likes to do is, he'll take that 1v1. He'll take that battle. If he knows it's something he can win, he'll take it. So you have to put him in those uncomfortable situations and force him to lose those battles. Force him to call for his team. Force him out of position and force him to have to rely on others rather than himself. In conclusion, as I said, Sour is better than Penta, in my honest opinion, which means that they are the best PML team from the European region. But Elevate is the best console team, in my opinion, currently. And it sucks how the draw ended up putting Elevate against Sour team. But this situation is winnable for them. It's going to be very difficult for them. For myself, however, I'm going to have to pick what is basically a PPL team with players unable to relocate to Atlanta. Sour team is my pick to win this matchup. However, as a fan and a console player myself, I'm rooting for Elevate. So I hope they can pull out the win. But as an analyst, I'm going to have to go with Sour team here. All right, so moving on to match number 2. We have Flashpoint versus Sanguine. And this is an interesting matchup. For Flashpoint, let's talk about them first. They are bringing the lineup of TheLGCY, Stormavatar, Prosperlogic, Skeppii, and Wrld, with their sub/coach being I only Op B, or just for short, Op. I think Op coming is a good choice. He's been to every single LAN with them throughout the course of Console Paladins history. So he has that knowledge. He has that depth. He's been to every LAN, has only played in 2 of them, but the fact is he's been there, he's been on this stage, so he knows what to expect and how to go into this, as well as pretty much everyone else on this lineup. Skeppii, Wrld has been, and Stormavatar have been to every single LAN as well. Prosper only missing Valencia, and Legacy missing the first two, Valencia and the HRX of January. So Stormavatar, we talked about him being kind of like Shoo. He's a little frag first mentality. So if anyone dives the backline, he can take care of them, usually, more often than not. But we have the Legacy as well, who's been playing main. He's listed as the main frontline. But the thing is that him and Wrld can swap back and forth, and that's pretty awesome. Wrld's listed as the flex because if they do solo tank, it'll be Legacy. But you will see Wrld on the main tanks most likely. Prosperlogic, 2018 PCL MVP, has been proving time in and time again that he should be the MVP this season again, and actually leads the candidates list for that as well. Skeppii actually didn't play in week 2, 3, and 4, but he's been crushing it ever since he got back into the league. Only played 2 games in week 1 as well, but he's been doing a fantastic job. So who's playing on mouse and keyboard versus controller for this team? I think it's going to be everyone but Prosperlogic. I think Prosper, he doesn't have a PC at the moment that I know of. I think that he is building one, though. So he will be on controller. But then again, he'll be playing on a PC at LAN with better frame rates and better aim settings, so he might have an easier time. But then again, Skeppii's been playing CSGO for a while. He's been playing Overwatch on PC, and he's been grinding PC Paladins as of lately like no one's business. The same with Legacy, who built his PC a while ago. I've been playing PC games with Legacy for a while myself, so I know that he does have that skill there. So it'd be interesting to see him on that stage with it. Stormavatar is actually, he's a very quiet person, and he keeps to himself online, so not much to know about him unless you've actually had conversations or spoke with him before, which I have, and I know that he has a PC, and I think that he would feel comfortable playing support on PC. I don't know if he will. Maybe he'll go with controller. Who knows? And Wrld, always been a PC player at heart, but I think more often than not he might play with controller. But I can see him playing with the mouse and keyboard here. Season recap: they came in first place, obviously, but I think they were in the toughest division. They only lost 2 games, or 2 maps. All season long, and both of those were to the last place team in their division. So that actually shows that their division does have some good competition from top to bottom in Stush Gaming. That is, this team actually tries a bunch of things. They try triple tank. They try quad DPS this season. They did end up losing that game. That was one of the ones they lost to Stush, and it was on Timbermill in the very final week of the season. So not too big of a deal, but that's the perfect time to try things like this. You can try them in a real PCL setting or a real league setting, knowing that you already have that bid to the LAN. So that was awesome of them. So they've been trying these things. They are trying new things. They've trying old things, and they're trying things that have only been tried once or twice before other teams, whether that's PML or PPL. So it's good for them. Their keys to victory, though, is basically just give Prosperlogic Victor or Vivian. He's going to be playing on controller. He's going to have better frame rates. He's going to have better aim settings. We've stated this, and all of the people who have ever played at LAN on controller know that this is a fact. So putting him on Victor, putting him on Vivian, those are 2 champs that he excels at, especially that Victor. People, he's well known for his Victor. So putting him on that, I think, would greatly increase their chances of taking down Sanguine. Whip out the weird stuff with this lineup as well. I mean, I just said they try crazy stuff like quad DPS, but think of it this way. You have Skeppii, who can play pretty much any damage champion in the game, as well as Prosper. They can both play hit scans. They can both play, blasters. Then you have Prosper, who can play these damage Groks, these damage Saruses. You have Skeppii, who can play these damage Pips. And you have damage Genos players on this team. You have Storm, who all the way back during Valencia was a damage main. Now he's playing support for the longest time. You have Legacy, who used to be a damage main. Now he's playing front lines, but he can play those main tanks like he did last season, or he can play the off tank like he is this season. Same with Wrld. He can play those off tanks. He can play those blasters like Drogos and Bomb King and Pip that we've come to love him for. So this lineup can get very, very intricate or were very, very strategic in their drafting process, and I think that could play a major part for them trying to find success here against a PC team. And last but not saying, every champ is available, and Flashpoint's only LAN championship is with a Terminus. Just saying, and Op will be there. Just saying. That's more so a joke, but hey, he's available. I know he's not the greatest right now, but you did win a LAN with him, so worst comes to worst. Let's talk about Sanguine. They're bringing the roster of Jalen, Baller Steve, Edgem, Nijo, or Nijo, Niju. I think it's Niju. Flame Effects, and their sub/coach will be Prius. I don't know much about Prius. I don't think I've actually ever seen them play as well. Have seen Jalen play a little bit. He has, some good games on Frontline, especially at main tank position, but nothing really stood out to me there. Same with Flame Effects. I know of Flame Effects. I've seen him play for a while. He has great mechanics. But the three big stars of this team are Baller Steve, Edgem, and Niju. I think Niju is one of the better DPS players in the PML region overall. I just think that, he gets a lot of slack for him. And he's had success at this level before. If I recall, he's been to a LAN, so he has that experience under his belt. And then you have Edgem playing DPS, and Edgem, he's had a tough season because he's been on this team, and then he's been on he's been on Hype Unit at a different time in the season, and he was going back and forth, and it was all because teams didn't know if Shadow was going to stay in the PPL or come back, and Shadow's situation was because of Loki. So it was like this player's situation is affecting this player's situation, which is affecting this player's situation. So Edgem was having a tough season, and it wasn't even having to do with in-game things. But Edgem is a great player. He can play these hit scans very well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how well he does. And Baller Steve, who has a lot of hype around him. Baller Steve actually, a lot of people, a lot of peers of his will say that he's the best support player in the PML currently. And this is his first LAN event, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do at this level and to prove if he is the best. It's actually one of the keys to the Sanguine's victory. Baller Steve needs to prove he is the best support in PML, like everyone says he is currently. I could, raise the question of, is he really? But instead, I just want him to show me that he is here. Edgem needs to prove he shouldn't be a team's backup when someone moves to the PPL next time, and he deserves what is his. And what I mean by this is like, Edgem needs to prove that he shouldn't be the guy that should be in the situation he was this season, and it should be someone else who's in that situation, basically. Flame and Jalen are the weakest parts of this roster and need to show up big and shut down Legacy and Wrld, who can constantly swap tank roles to throw opponents off guard. I talked about that. Wrld can play off tanks, not as great as Legacy, but they can both play main tanks as well, so you can, kind of see the different strategies they can implement. They can both switch from main tanks each game, or they can both play main tanks in a situation. They can both play off tanks, so it'd be interesting to see, especially in a meta like this where it's so damage amplification and aggression and pressure, constant pressure. So it'd be interesting to see if they're able to keep up with those two and keep them in check. In conclusion, the European console teams in Flashpoint and Cyclone actually have a better chance versus the North American PML teams than the North American console teams do versus EU PML teams. I think the PML teams from EU are much better overall than the NA teams. Sanguine is clearly the better team between them and Hype Unit currently, and with all the hype around people like Baller Steve and Edgem, I can see why. Flashpoint, however, isn't a joke. The roster has more LAN appearances combined than both NA PML teams combined, so that has to count for something at the very least. And this will come down to the wire, in my opinion. If drafts go well, to stick Prosper on his hit scan champs and Skeppii, the longtime PC CSGO player, then it should end nicely for the console boys. For this match, I think Sanguine will highly underestimate the console meta and Flashpoint's drafts. Therefore, I'm picking Flashpoint to move on in an upset and surprising fashion. All right, so moving on to match number 3, we have Cyclone versus Hype Unit. Hype Unit was the second place team in the North American PML, and Cyclone was the number 1 team in the EU Xbox region or division. And let's start off with Cyclone. For Cyclone, we have their roster of Smutny, Westside, Welshmania, Slopodopolous, Thanaticz, and their sub/coach will be Beenie. I think this is a huge pickup for them. I think Beenie coming in as their sub/coach is a great decision being made by the Cyclone roster. They realize that they're going to have to go against a PC team or multiple PC teams. So bringing in someone who, is familiar with the PML scene, with those players and with the PC meta, and as all those things combined, Beenie is probably arguably the best choice that is out there right now. So bringing him in was an excellent decision, in my opinion. And then you have players on this team that have been playing on PC for a while. You have Smutny, who actually qualified for Spring Masters last year with Team Cryptic on PC out of the PGS. So he's been to LAN on PC before against PC teams, and I'll be looking forward to seeing how well he does on a console team this time. Westside as well has been playing on PC for as long as I could remember, and he's a great frontline player on PC. A lot of people. The perfect example would be Random Noob TV. Okay, a lot of people say Random Noob TV on a good day is 10 times better than Random Noob on a bad day. Same person, but 2 different people. If you get what I'm trying to say, and that goes to say the same with Westside. PC Westside is 10 times better than console Westside. So he's kind of nutty on the PC side of things. However, he's playing support this time. And then you have Welshmania, who's been playing on PC for a little bit. And he's a big damage player, can play a lot of hit scans as well. And then you have Slopodopolous, who's been practicing on PC for months now. He's been playing a lot of Cassie and Eevee and things like that. And then you have Thanaticz, who I don't think Thanaticz. I think if Thanaticz plays Makoa on console, he'll hit 7 out of 10 Makoa hooks, and on PC he hits 11 out of 10, however that's possible, whatever it may be. But it just goes to show that he's a better PC player than he is console player as well, in my opinion, right now. He's been a great console player as well, but that grind on the PC has really favored him. So who is playing on mouse and keyboard? Everyone. If I had to take a wild guess, I think everyone is playing. I think the only one person who might not play on it, if they did have someone playing on controller, would be Welshmania, maybe Thanaticz, but I think that everyone here will be playing on PC. They've actually been they've been practicing on PC, on mouse and keyboard, further back than the other console teams. If I'm correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong. They came in first place in the Xbox EU division. They pretty much single-handedly took down Radiant and Team Viral, now known as GPS, Rock, Paper, Scissors, fairly easily. Bust Down was pretty much their own competition, but at the same time, Bust Down kept bringing in different players all the time, so the results would vary against them. One week they'd have really good players, the next week they'd have halfway decent players, and the results would be different, but the end result was the same. Cyclone came out on top. They did lose their main support player in Harvey after the crossplay for this event was announced, and that was a big blow to them, but they were able to pick it up. They played with Badge Tiger for a little bit, or for 1 week. They played with Thanaticz on support. They played with their main roster player Kings on support. Unfortunately, Kings won't be able to make this event, so they had to bring in Westside to play support. And being on PC, I think he would be a little bit more comfortable. He also will have a deeper champ pool than Thanaticz would on the support role. Their keys to victory are just put your trust in Beenie. Beenie's never been to a LAN, but he's been a diehard coaching fanatic for the longest time. He's been following the scene. He basically just does analysis on everything, even in his own time. Even if he doesn't put it out there publicly, he's doing it. I know he is. He's the type of person that does that. So if he can get some good drafts going and get some good team comps for Cyclone to run, I think if they can trust him, then they can find some success. Get sloppy, dude. And by that I mean just let Slopodopolous pop off, dude. He was leading the league in kills up until the last week. or the PCL that is. Dude's insane. He came into this league he came into this scene on a good team last season during the summer PCS phase, and after that he pretty much ran away with it and just became a top player in the league on console Paladins overall. If Thanaticz is struggling, stick him on support and slide Westside into his natural habitat. By that I mean, Westside, like I said, been playing tanks on PC for a while, so if Thanaticz is feeling uncomfortable, you can slot him into that quote-unquote easier role support and let Westside go crazy on the front line. Smutny needs to lead the charge, being in this position on PC at LAN before. So Smutny has never been to a LAN as a console player, but he's been to LAN as a PC player. And for those of you who don't know, way back when esports first emerged for Paladins, he was playing on teams. Like way back when Wrld was a player. Way back when Sun Commander was playing. Smutny was playing on PC, on competitive teams. So he's been around for a while, and he's going to have to show that leadership. Moving on to Hype Unit, though. Hype Unit's roster will consist of William, 355, T-Mac, Stigma, Poison, and Tay. Right now, no sub or coach listed for them that I know of. They had some tough breaks against teams like Sanguine and Bork, which suffer, and they also suffered from the roster fakeouts like everyone else in the North American PML. So they ended up just getting second place. I think they were playing under Nation of Power for most of the season. But this is a good pickup by Hype. This is a really good lineup, and it really intrigues me because this lineup can either go one of two ways. It can do really terrible or it can do really well. T-Mac and William have been in this position before. Poison and Stigma are great damage players in themselves, and Tay is that young fragger on that flex 2 position. But their keys to victory overall are drop those egos. Cyclone can play. Whether that be on controller or mouse and keyboard. Cyclone they play these weird comps all the time. All season they've been doing it, especially when they had Harvey in the lineup. But they play like these hybrid comps with PC and console metas fused together in the weirdest way. And I truly cannot 100% understand it, but they're winning games with it, and that's what I can't understand. So you can't go in there just thinking that this is just some console plebs from the bottom tiers. LAN Stigma and LAN Poison got to play like online Stigma and online Poison. By this, I mean these guys, it's their first LAN, I think, for both of them. They have to show up and play at LAN just as dominantly as they do when they play online. This one was kind of a little... I needed to put this in there for a little joke, but William cannot wear scarves this time since he choked in his last LAN, so he needs as much breathing room as possible. I'm just kidding. William's a really good player, but he does need to step up and play as the team's leader. Him and T-Mac being the only LAN experience on the squad, those two need to be the leader, but T-Mac, his personality is more aggressive, so if you have William who keeps that calm and collective, he can kind of guide this team through. T-Mac can do just the same. I know T-Mac. We've been good friends on social media for a while now, and he's I love him because he's like the nicer version of me, because when he's aggressive, he does it in a passive aggressive kind of way. So I think if stuff starts to go sour for them, I think William should be the one who steps up and says, hey, shut up. We need to buckle down. We need to do this. And Tay is an underrated player, but with William by his side, he shouldn't have those rookie LAN nerves, and William is one of the best to guide him through his first LAN. So being that both of them will probably be playing front lines most of the time, unless they do some weird stuff, I think Tay will really look to William for some guidance through this to shake those first LAN jitters, especially for such a young and frag-alicious player in Tay himself. In conclusion, Cyclone coming into this has been practicing on PC before any of the other console teams were, if I recall correctly, again, and have been preparing for this moment. Hype is good, but with Cyclone having two natural PC Paladins players and one of them being to LAN as well and playing the game at this level since the very first Paladins tournament back in 2016, I am giving them the edge here and picking Cyclone to win this matchup. All right, now we have the final match of the first round, which is match number 4, and this is Heating Up versus Penta. Now, I heard that Heating Up will be playing as Nemesis. that's awesome that they signed to an org. So for Nemesis, they'll be using the roster of xWooosh, JeffTheRaccoon, which is also known as Miracle, Destronite, I'm Calamity, Cool Matt, and Kev Falcon as their sub/coach. I think Kev Falcon, this will be his first LAN event. And he was on Big Money Esports, which finished in 4th place in their division. But he's a knowledgeable player, and he's been on top-tier teams throughout his entire career. Almost made LAN last year, but Onslaught beat his team, which was Cryptic, in the last week of the season, which ultimately denied them the LAN spot. Cool Matt also has been to 2 LANs, and he's a dominant player within himself. Plays a lot of hit scans. The problem with Cool Matt is I just think that his meta is a little weird right now. He likes the Strix, he likes the Victor, he likes the he can play the Willow as well, very high caliber Willow, and he can also play the Lex and most of the time things that aren't being high prioritized. So he's gonna have to be able to play some Vivians and some Victors a lot of times. And then you have I'm Calamity, who is Dovahkiin, by the way. And he was with Kev Falcon on that Team Cryptic roster last season. I think Dovahkiin or Calamity has had a really good season. He has really good aim, and that's part of the reason why he's on this team. But another reason why is because he plays the off tanks at a very high level, like Torvald and Ruckus and Khan. So if he's able to find his success with those, then he should be just fine. Destronite will be coming in, and Cool Matt will be replacing SoldierBot, and Destronite will be replacing Richie. And I don't really agree with the Destronite pickup here. He's been to 1 LAN as a sub/coach before with Fable. And I just, Nemesis really, or Heating Up, whatever you want to call them, they really only lost games this season when Destronite was implemented into that lineup. And it's no fault to Destronite, or it's not Destronite's total 100% fault. It's just that the team doesn't really mesh with his play style. Or he's been forced to play things that he's not up to par to playing, like the Maldamba and support role overall, when JeffTheRaccoon or Miracle had some connection issues earlier this season. JeffTheRaccoon, though, number 5 in the MVP candidate, and he's the only support player to ever break into the top 5 for MVP candidates at any time in both PCL seasons so far. And this guy is just, he's pretty much saving the game here for this team. Even with their best lineup they've had. He's had some insane plays and does a lot for the team that really doesn't show on the stat sheet. And frontline xWooosh. xWooosh has been to all but 1 LAN, and he's a great player. Problem with xWooosh is that, I stated this in his player rankings as well, he's having a very great season. And I kind of was very skeptical about how he would do because he doesn't have Shoo behind him. Every time he's been on a team, he's had Shoo as a support player. This time he has Miracle. I mean, he's a top tier support, and they've been doing very well together and pretty much carrying their team through their roster changes. Problem is now, same question. How well is he going to perform without Shoo behind him on a LAN setting, especially against PC teams? Now, who is going to be playing on mouse and keyboard? My guess is nobody. I know that Destronite has played on PC before, but I don't think he will be comfortable playing on PC in Paladins against the PML team. I don't think he should either. I think he should stick to the controller for this one and what he knows best. I do know that Cool Matt just recently built a computer, but I don't think he'll be ready in time. Like there wasn't enough. I think that was 1 or 2 weeks ago. It's not enough time for him to prep for this. Pretty much throughout the season, they went neck and neck with Onslaught until the very end. They don't have Richie, they don't have SoldierBot, they don't have Sir James Parker as well. And most losses came with Destronite in that lineup, unfortunately. Most of those losses, not all of them, so tread lightly there. The keys to victory for this team, though, is Jeff and xWooosh need to hard carry like they've never done before. Destro cannot make the same mistakes he was making in the regular season. I'm Calamity cannot be nervous at his first LAN, especially now since it's versus PC teams. I feel like if he was going against console teams, he'd come in with some pretty big expectations, and now maybe some of those have been dwindled down to a little spark instead of a huge raging fire. So he has to keep that mentality going in, thinking that he's going to win this in order to play at his highest potential. Cool Matt, his key to victory is he's going to have to play some champs he doesn't like playing normally. Way back before he started becoming who he is on these successful teams, a lot of people still knew he was a great player. He was just not on the big stages, and he was playing things like Frontline, off tanks like Khan and stuff like that. So he's probably going to have to play some champs that he's not comfortable playing, in the sense that he doesn't like them or he doesn't play them often, but he knows how to play them and he's good playing them. So he's probably going to have to do that a lot. And for Penta, which was the #1 PML EU team, they'll be bringing the roster of Xcentra, Bolka, Erase, Simsaloo, and K-Crunchy. And right now they don't have a sub or a coach because they planned on having Ovum come, but I think Xcentra was the one who had to step in for Ovum because he was having visa issues. This is another one of those pretty much a PPL team that couldn't relocate. Simsaloo is back, and he's better than he was when he was on Virtus Pro back in the day in the PPL, and they have been just looking really, really good, especially against teams like All Business, who have Bugsy and the great lineup that is Sour Team. I don't know much about Xcentra. I don't know much about Erase. I do know Erase is a really good hit scan player. I've caught a couple of his games, a couple of his gameplays. I think Bolka is one of the top PML supports right now. I think K-Crunchy is a really good flex, by the way. I know about K-Crunch and Simsaloo, and I think both of those are the two best players on this team, and I think that Simsaloo is just an insane blaster. Insane. And that's one of their keys to victory. Simsaloo just needs to play his blasters at his full potential and pretty much just shut down this Nemesis roster. Xcentra does have big shoes to fill, so he's going to have to fill those. He's filling for Ovum, I think it is, and Ovum's been to LAN before, so he knows what to expect and how to play in this situation. It's unfortunate that he's not able to attend, and hope he's cheering his team on from the comfort of his home. And Erase shuts down Destro and Jeff for the win. Basically, Erase and his DPS champs and his hit scans, pick a Kinessa or something. You're going to have to just kill Jeff or Miracle. When they went against Big Money Esports, he didn't die for the first 8 games against them, and they 3-0'd them every time. So until the third time they met in the second game is when he finally got killed by the team. He knows how to stay safe. Unlike Shoo and Storm, which I've mentioned before, he's not really the one to take those 1v1s on. He's been practicing that, but I think he'll want to play it more safely against PC teams at this moment. So if you can shut him down, then it opens up Destro, and I think Destro will panic under pressure from a team like Penta. In conclusion, this is a giant mountain for Nemesis to overcome. And without crucial players like SoldierBot Richie and, more importantly, Sir James Parker, it becomes highly unlikely. Penta is just too good for a great team broken by roster changes, player suspensions, and others unwilling to give their best efforts and electing to stay home instead. Even Ovum's visa won't save Nemesis, in my opinion. I'd be happy if the console team could slip past them, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to choose Penta as my winning prediction here. All right, so that's it for the breakdown of the first round of the placement bracket for the Midseason Invitational for Paladins between the console teams and the PML teams. Let me know what you guys think about each matchup, who you think is going to win as well. Just drop us a comment below. I'll be sure to take a look at them and see who everyone thinks is going to win. We also have the bracket posted on the Twitter at Console Pro News, and you can check out the website where the bracket is also posted, and we'll be doing some coverage at consolecorner.co. And if you want to see my entire bracket prediction before the event even starts, go ahead and check out my Twitter at RealBlueTV. And also on the Console Pro News Twitter, once again, at Console Pro News. By the way, all the links will be in the description below. You can check out the rest of everyone here at Console Corner and Console Pro News and their predictions for the entire MSI event as well. Keep grinding, everyone.